Clash of the Champions 3 Fall Brawl, September 7th, 1988, from the Albany Civic Center in New York. This is the first event in NWA that they would use the Fall Brawl label. Fall Brawl would eventually become, in a sense, an event itself in the 1990s, where it would become a pay-per-view type of event. It would be used for the War Games. But I think Clash of the Champions would use Fall Brawl a couple of times as its label, and this is in the fall of 1988. The opening match, I'll give Clash of the Champions credit, and this is the third event of the same year, 1988. Clash of the Champions, the first match, has always proven a great wrestling match. And the first one was Mike Rotundo, Jimmy Garvin. Second was Brad Armstrong against Barry Windham. Third one, Brad Armstrong against Mike Rotundo of the Varsity Club with Kevin Sullivan. I tell Brad Armstrong, again, Bill Apter labeled him the most underrated. Brad Armstrong, honest to God, should have won this match. Should have become TV champion. This is where the match was for Mike Rotundo's NWA World Television title. Mike Rotundo had won it January 26 from Nikita Koloff earlier in the year. So he held it the entire year. And Mike would drop it eventually to Rick Steiner at Stark 88 and regain it. But Mike Rotundo, one hell of a wrestler. And his two sons, Taylor Rotundo and Wyndham Rotundo, would become big stars in the WWE. But Mike Rotundo, one hell of a wrestler. He's a great wrestler, University of Syracuse, New York. Again, I've always argued about Mike Rotundo being, okay, as a heel, it didn't matter if he was a heel. He was a wrestler first and foremost. But so I don't understand in this Varsity Club type of a group or stable. Okay, I could see that part if he wants to play heel. And he did a little bit of heel tactics in matches, but not much. He was a pure wrestler. And again, I've argued before that Kevin Sullivan can be a manager, but he should do it with rough big guys. Abdul the Butcher, just guys that are rough, tough, ugly-looking monsters. He did it with the Dungeon of Doom in the 1990s in WCW. Kevin Sullivan did not belong managing collegiate amateur wrestlers like Mike Rotundo, Rick Steiner, and whatnot. Steve Williams. Steve Williams, by this point, apparently in this match, Steve Williams had broken away from Varsity Club and went back to babyface. And Brad Armstrong really worked, again, one of the most underrated workers in NWA history. And I know in WCW he became a light heavyweight WCW light heavyweight champion. He was UWF tag team champions with Tim Horner. He may have been regional champion when he worked in Alabama and the lower southern states with his father's company, Bullet Bob Armstrong. Did Brad Armstrong even win any real good titles? No. Maybe he won regional titles down in the southern states. Really, when Steve Williams eventually came out and he became a cheerleader. He was pushing the fans, and the fans really worked with Steve Dr. Williams. Wow, he got the arena going, cheering for Brad Armstrong. The disturbing thing about the ending of this match is where it was approaching 15 minutes and 17 minutes, and said, okay, this match is going to end up in what the wrestlers call Broadway, a time limit draw. It's heading past the 15-minute mark, 17-minute mark, and it was Bob Caudle and Jim Ross that were, they were pushing, and the fans were pushing Brad just to finish the match, to go the distance. The match is only 20 minutes. So Brad Armstrong is so exhausted at 20 minutes, I guess this guy can't go 30 minutes or an hour. Where Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race, Ric Flair, 60 minutes is easy to them. I know Dusty would do a 20-minute, 30-minute match, but Brad Armstrong seemed so exhausted when that time limit ended for 20 minutes. It's so disturbing to see that. And they were Jim Ross, Steve Williams, Bob Caudle, the announcers, and Steve Williams cheering for him. They were all rooting for Brad to finish the match, go 20 minutes. That was so disturbing, honestly. They should have been rooting for Brad to pull off a last-minute win and win the TV title. But no, the match went 20 minutes, and Mike Rotunda retained the NWA World Television title. But it's, again, for the third straight Class of Champions, a great opening match. Next match of the night, a special challenge tag team match. Nikita Koloff and Steve Dr. Williams against the Sheepherders. With another flag bearer, New Zealand flag bearer. They've changed flag bearers many, many times throughout their career. This time it's Rick Morgan. Yeah, past the flag bearers have been Johnny Ace, Jack Victory. They've had different New Zealand flag bearers over the years, and the only one. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this particular match for a second. But the one thing that doesn't make any sense, and I said I'm not talking about this particular match, but the Sheepherders were great brawlers, great villains, great heels in a time, and Jim Ross kept referencing they've been together for 10 years. So this is 1988, so I guess they started in 1978 together. The one thing that didn't make any sense, I know there are many foreign villains, foreign heels, bad guys, and many of them have not been foreigners. But these guys are definitely foreigners. But their accent, they definitely I believe they're out of New Zealand. But when they went to the WWF, they become the Bushwhackers. The comical, they're like childish. They become baby faces, and Bushwhacker is a term out of Australia. Now I think Australia and New Zealand are very close in vicinity when it comes to the countries, the land, and the native areas where those particular countries are located in the world. They are very close in vicinity. Maybe it's me. It's the accent. The call, I guess, for McMahon, for him to rename the Bushwhackers and say they're from Australia with the accent. Because maybe Bushwhackers it's a term out of Australia. Maybe it's the same term out of New Zealand. I may be incorrect about it. It just seems off. Okay, back to this tag team match, special talent challenge tag team match. Nikita Koloff and Steve Williams. One thing again, Jim Ross, Bob Caudle kept also referencing is it's a practically put together tag team. They're definitely not a long tag team, not together that long at all. And neither of them, except for really, Steve Williams was a lot together a long time with Ted DiBiase in the Bill Watts Mid-South territory. Nikita Koloff was before starting with Uncle Ivan Koloff, and also when he turned babyface with Dusty Rhodes, the Superpowers. Nikita Koloff, I think, has a lot. Who had a lot more tag team experience? Nikita Koloff with Ivan and Dusty, or Steve Williams? He was. It was a couple of years with Ted DiBiase. Then he had the. He's going to have the heel turn and join the Varsity Club, Kevin Sullivan's group, which again I argue about why is Kevin Sullivan with college-based athletes, Mike Rotunda and Rick Steiner. I never understood that part. But okay, this match is going to go quite a while. I think it went too long. I think it should have been a quick win, maybe less than 5 minutes. They really tried to draw this match. I mean, really to drag this match out a long time. It went 17 minutes. I think I went a little bit too long, but I think they were trying to stretch the TV time more. That's more. I think when you're putting two guys together, Nikita Koloff and Steve Williams, who have, I think Nikita had more tag team experience, and Steve Williams has more of the single experience. Nikita Koloff, yes, had a single experience. But the two of them together, I just didn't see it they really had to drag this match out this length of time just for the TV time, I think. It was a so-so match. And for a while, I thought the dominant power, Nikita. Now, also Nikita Koloff. 1988, most wrestling fans will remember 1988. Nikita, his babyface turn way back in the fall of '86 with Magnum TA's car wreck. He joined with Dusty Rhodes, and he still had his large shoulder, large body mass as a muscular wrestler. Then all of a sudden, he started to weaken, and most people say that he was really the standout when he was a heel Russian, and he played a great Russian. I've always emphasized, and many of us from the old school remember Ivan Nikita Koloff were the best sold Russians in history, and not until much later, years and years later, did we realize they weren't Russian. And it amazed me. Nikita turned kind of religious, but their voices, they had a gruff voice. The way they're dressed, the way they acted, my God, they were real Russians. That's the way you believe Russians were like. Steve Dr. F. Williams, when they bought Bill Watts Mid-South Territory, there were maybe 3 people that came out of that territory that really stayed the long period of time. Sting, Rick and Scott's tag team of Rick and Scott Steiner, and the announcer Jim Ross. That's pretty much it. Steve W. Williams, who was the UWF champion at the time of the purchase, he won the title. He won the title just after the purchase, the UWF title. Because Ric Flair was the world champion, they weren't going to allow Steve Williams' UWF title to be any significance whatsoever, and that really hurt. They could have had some title matches between him and Flair. No, but Steve Williams and Ric Flair were way too different of an athlete in size-wise and the length that they were. No, either title holders, just a recognition. Steve Williams is not Ric Flair, but Steve Williams is a big guy. But Nikita Koloff and Steve Williams is one thing they emphasized, not too much, that they were a quick. It was a special challenge tag team match. They were just thrown together against the veterans of Sheep Herders, which are enjoyable to watch. They were really good brawlers. They were more the Sheep Herders had definitely a long time feud with the Fantastics and other teams. But this match, I think, was dragged out just for TV time, and it was for what it was worth. It was a so-so match. But Nikita Koloff, Steve Williams defeated the Sheep Herders. Nikita Koloff ended up pinning a Russian sickle out of nowhere, and I think he pinned Butch Miller. It was dark-haired. I think it was Butch Miller he pinned. But it was a so-so match for 17 minutes. It was just dragged out for TV time limit. Well, not TV time limit, but the first 2 matches were very, very long. The first match was 20 minutes long, and this one was 17 minutes. It was just it was just for a TV match, but for 17 minutes, that was ridiculously too long. This match should have been no more than 5 to 6, 7, 8 minutes. It was dragged too long. It was a so-so tag team match. Okay, before I get started on this third match, which is going to be Dusty Rhodes versus Kevin Sullivan with manager Gary Hart, before I get started, I apologize. I had to go back to the previous tag team match, Nikita Koloff, Steve Williams versus the Sheep Herders. Nothing to do. I already explained that tag team match. One thing I missed out on is most fans remember 1988 wasn't a very good year for Nikita Koloff because, again, his look changed. And I forgot to mention, besides his muscular tone had dropped, he grew hair. And it was, what in the heck is it? He's growing hair. He's, I guess, turning to American. That he's lost. He's no longer the big, muscular, brawling look. The look that Nikita Koloff was infamous, known for. The Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff. I had to go back to that. I apologize. I completely forgot to mention that part. It's Nikita Koloff. His look completely went off, downhill, and I think 1988 was probably the end of his. I wouldn't say wrestling career, but his persona as the Russian Nikita Koloff. Now going on to this next match. Now, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for Clash of Champions 3, and as far as I can tell, it's not a no disqualification match. It is labeled a grudge match. Dusty Rhodes versus Kevin Sullivan. And these guys go back to the Florida days, if not before. And Kevin Sullivan apparently started his career as a babyface of some sort, Georgia, or I'm not sure. I did not cover Kevin Sullivan's career yet. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Sullivan's being managed by Gary Hart. I'm not mistaken. Gary Hart, Gary Hart had a long time hatred for Dusty. If I'm not mistaken, he and Jim Ross mentions 1974. And Gary Hart was in the tag team. He was managing, if I'm not mistaken, he was managing when Dusty Rhodes was just starting out. He was in a tag team match with a North Korean wrestler named Pak Sung. Against, I don't remember who the opponents were, but Pak Sung had struck Dusty Rhodes by mistake, and then it said, "You're not going to get away with hitting me." And from that moment on, 1984, that tag team match, if everybody knows Dusty Rhodes' career, that's when Dusty Rhodes turned babyface, became the American Dream to Dusty Rhodes. If I'm not mistaken, Gary Hart was the manager of that tag team, and that's why he's hated Dusty ever since, because he turned babyface. Now, again, this match is supposed to be just a grudge match. I don't see anything about no disqualification or weapons. It's okay. First of all, they didn't even have the introductions. Dusty Rhodes didn't. I guess maybe they didn't have TV time. But Dusty Rhodes usually walks in with some kind of country music. Kevin Sullivan, not really. But they immediately, there's not even introduction to their names or weights, nothing. They just start the match. I guess they had TV time had to be cut. They had to be cut for TV time, I guess. Yeah, but they spent 17 minutes on a so-so tag team match. Okay. It starts off, just punching back and forth, a brawl, typical of Dusty and Kevin. And Dusty's selling the little punches and whatnot. And Dusty does a little bit of a hand jive. A little bit. Then, okay, the verbality gets interesting. Some things that are said in this, oh my God. Gary Hart, Dusty's fending off Gary Hart outside. Gary Hart can be heard on the mic, from Jim Ross and Bob Cottle's microphone that tell the nation I'm not interfering, and I'm not and Jim Ross, yeah, you're a choir boy. Jim Ross can have some words. Oh my God. Yeah, and then Gary Hart does a bit interfere. However, I think Gary Hart took his shoe off, hit Dusty Rhodes when Dusty Rhodes was down on the concrete, and Gary Hart, I think he took his shoe off, hit Dusty in the head, if I'm not mistaken, and Jim Ross said he hit him in the heart. Oh my God! And then this is some things that Jim Ross comes off shocking with describing. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Jim Ross says about Gary Hart, if I'm not mistaken, when I watched this match, he says that Gary Hart is as innocent as Al Capone and Charles Manson. Oh my God, that's a comparison. I would catch you off guard, that one. But Gary Hart, yes, he can. Him and J.J. Dillon. Gary Hart doesn't. He does. I think Gary Hart. I would compare him to Bobby Heenan, and people can say you're going to compare him to who? I was not a huge fan of Bobby Heenan. People can say, "Oh, you're a wrestling fan, and you're not a fan of Bobby Heenan." No, I'm not a fan of Bobby the Brain Heenan in WWF. And apparently, he's one of he's been voted many times as one of the greatest heel managers ever. I'm not a huge fan of. Am I going to say I'm a huge fan of Gary Hart? No, either. But Gary Hart knows how to talk a lot more. Bobby Heenan is a comic nutcase when it comes to being a heel manager. Gary Hart is, I think, the NWA's version. Now, like I say, James J. Dillon, but James J. Dillon was a Four Horsemen. Gary Hart has managed a lot of different heels. So Gary Hart, I think he would be the non-comical version of Bobby Heenan. And Gary Hart doesn't really talk much, but when he does, he's evil. As a heel manager would be. It's interesting times when Gary Hart, when he does and does not interfere, he knows when and when not to interfere. It's interesting to watch out for Gary Hart. Now he does not interfere with all. he lets his wrestlers do what they have to do, but he does not interfere all the time, like Bobby Heenan always did. The match, no, I'm just surprised that Dusty Rhodes Kevin Sullivan wasn't more of a main event match, and that's what they're most known for, because of their Florida feud, and Kevin Sullivan was doing the devil gimmick. It's a back and forth punch brawl, outside a bit. The camera really focuses on Dusty Rhodes' flesh, his scarred forehead. It's amazing that his forehead didn't peel off. You can see the camera close up on his Dusty's forehead. It's amazing that just the scar tissues from so many blade jobs, so many cuts. Jeez. But there's where it gets toward the ending of this match gets very funny. Again, it's not labeled no disqualification or bunkhouse or anything goes, but all of a sudden, a similar same thing happened with the previous tag team match, Nikita Koloff, Steve Williams against Shoopers. Rip Morgan entered the ring, and for briefly, and the match should have been ended in disqualification for Rip Morgan. He used that flag strike so many times. This should have been a disqualification. That's why that tag team match should have been shorter. Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan, that match should have ended so fast in a disqualification. But no, Tommy Young, Al Perez, who was another 1988 add-on. Now Gary Hart's a 1988 add-on to the NWA for the territory. Al Perez interferes. He brings that a chain. Gary Hart interferes. There's no disqualification applied. Tommy Young is not disqualifying anybody. Al Perez comes out. He's not. Tommy Young not disqualifying. Al Perez has a chain in his hand because I think they're supposing setting up. Like Jim Ross said, they're negotiating a dog collar match with Dusty and Kevin, I think. Al Perez enters the ring with a chain. Tommy Young just standing there. He's waving his hands like he's counting, like 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like he's counting, like stop or I'm going to disqualify you. He's waving his hands, announcing numbers like he's going to disqualify. He does absolutely nothing. This match is not announced as a no DQ or anything goes. Why is Tommy Young not disqualifying? Al Perez interfering. Chain, Gary Hart, there's triple teaming, Dusty and nothing. All of a sudden, Kevin Sullivan disappears, and Dusty, Gary Hart, all three are in. I guess Dusty Rhodes, he threw Kevin Sullivan out and threw Al Perez out. Dusty gets a hold of Gary Hart and covers Gary Hart. Tommy Young just makes a 3 count. What in the hell just happened? Why is Tommy Young counting? Why isn't he disqualified? It's a grudge match. Now, a grudge match could be just, two guys that a long time know each other. But what in the hell just happened? How did Gary Hart become involved in the match? I mean, like, literally a part of the match. That Tommy Young's not disqualifying, and it doesn't say, oh, if he pins Gary Hart, it'd be like a mix of a handicap match. Gary Hart and Kevin Sullivan against Dusty. No, that's what this match almost turns into. Pretty much, it seems like it turns into that. Dusty Rhodes gets called Gary Hart. He pins him, hooks his leg, and Tommy Young makes a 3 count. How did Gary Hart get involved in this match as like a handicap match, but Tommy Young doesn't disqualify anybody? This match, honestly, its ending made no sense. But Dusty Rhodes won the match. Next match tonight is Rock and Roll Express Ricky Morton against Russian Bear Ivan Koloff in a chain match. Now, I'm not laughing at the chain match. It was fair for what it was. But the announcement of the chain match, the announcer, man, he really screwed it up. He called it a Russian chainsaw. Oh, excuse me, a Russian chain match. That announcer really screwed that up, calling it a chainsaw match. Oh my god. Then okay, I don't know if I don't think this video came from the network, but God, what the heck music they give Ricky Morton? Now, I said the previous match, Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan, the TV just started with them fighting and all working a match in the ring with no music, no announcements. Ricky and Ivan Koloff, they star, both come out the music. Ivan Koloff actually comes out to Russian anthem-based music. Ricky Morton, it was some kind of rock music. You'd swear the WWE Network implanted it. What the heck was that? It wasn't too bad, but it was unrecognizable. Now we get to the Russian Chain match, and everybody for years has been disappointed with the Russian Chain match. Now, probably before 1986, I would think so. The Russian Chain used to be more of a weapon, and it would be a pinfall match, and the chain would be more of a weapon. Now I think I don't know, maybe it was 1987, 88. Now it's definitely 1988. That the Russian Chain match is more like an Indian strap match, that they have to go touch all four corners. And it's disappointing that a Russian Chain is used. Ricky Morton and Ivan Koloff really belt the hell out of each other. You could hear, you question, how can they take the punishment of being hit with an actual chain? And you could hear that chain hit their bodies. Holy cow. It's just unmerciful that chain, metal chain, hitting their bodies. It's incredible. That, how do you protect themselves being hit with something like that? If it was an Indian strap match, everybody knows it would make sense. And most Indian strap matches will be a Wahoo McDaniel match. But the Russian Chain match, I think in most house shows where it's not TV taped, it would be used as a weapon type of match. And I would think mostly Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff, or any kind of Ivan Koloff. The Russians, they would use it in house shows. It would be for a pinfall. But TV, they've always turned a Russian Chain match into an Indian strap where you touch all four corners. That's what everybody, I think, old school wrestling fans would agree with me, that the Russian Chain was weakened by using Indian strap match rules. It should be just used as a weapon. It was a fair match, going back and forth. The fans were no. Here's the thing. There wasn't. It was back and forth between Ricky and Ivan Koloff, and at times you can hear the fans were vaguely chanting rock and roll for Ricky Morton. Now, also, the thing about the attendance. Now, most people that review these shows always announce, the attendance of the arena, the announcers. I don't really want to be that detailed. My reviews are about how we, the fans, I say mine is called Front Row, and I'm looking at it from a fan point of view. I don't have to go to every single detail. I'll leave it up to other people to review it that way. But I'm going to use the attendance in this one factor, that it's. And I'm looking at the Wikipedia page here, and it's Albany Civic Center, Albany, Georgia. Attendance is 3,700. Now, that may be fairly. I'm not sure what a full attendance of the arena would be. I think they were controlling the attendance, and they wanted the TBS logo signs all over the place so they could be seen. And the fans, you can see the fans up close ringside. And the question is how they're focused more on the ratings rather than the attendance. The fans rooting rock and roll for Ricky Morton, it wasn't that much, and you don't have it really the Rock and Roll Express would both it'd be either even Ricky Morton. Usually the fans would be a massive loud chant, a large arena chanting rock and roll. That, and they've always said Ricky Morton has been the biggest babyface seller. He's being beat all to hell, and he can get the fan, and you can watch Ricky Morton beat all to hell, bloody, whatnot, and the fans are chanting rock and roll to get him to make a comeback. I think the fans really didn't deliver that much. In the beginning of the match, you could see a few fans with posters. It was like 3 or 4. It was like half a dozen kids yelling rock and roll. It wasn't the entire arena. It really didn't help in this match. And also, I think Jim Ross was saying was kind of disturbing now with Paul Jones as manager Ivan Koloff. Jim Ross and Bob Caudle were saying that Paul Jones they're calling this match a critical match because Paul Jones is calling Ivan Koloff the weak link. Someone that has the legendary status of Ivan Koloff has to prove himself. That's what they're saying. Jim Ross said it sounded ridiculous. Anyway, it was a 9-10 minute match for what it was. And it was a fairly good. I said this show overall, and we're going to the last match pretty soon. This show overall was not that great of a Clash of Champions. Not that great. No. These were so matches, and their endings were more. Apparently, their endings came off more. The endings would look better than the match themselves, and that's really disappointing. Where Jim Crockett Promotions is going in 1988, they'll end up selling at the end of the year, and you can see the matches are not faring that well anymore. Like I said, the ending of these matches apparently look was more important than the matches themselves. It's really disappointing. It's the ending. It reminds me of Ricky Morton was able to drag Ivan Koloff around to at least three of the corners, and then. This is Ricky Morton's cell, and they said Ricky Morton is supposed to be the one apparently has been put over as the biggest babyface seller. He could be beat all to hell, and the whole arena is gonna root for him. Isn't that everybody that's a babyface? Ricky, he's got. Here's the also strange thing about this Russian chain. Where Indian strap. You have to take the strap and wrap around the wrists, where you can't do that with a Russian chain. But he's dragging Ivan by his wrist, pulling by his wrist, and typically the same thing as Indian strap. They would if they get to the third corner, usually approaching the fourth corner, the heel would put or whoever's losing, they would put their feet around the bottom rope, trying to hook on and prevent the other one from reaching the fourth. Then Paul Jones, he's trying to help Ivan. He has some kind of a little black stick that he keeps whipping the. It's kind of I think a riding stick that horse riders use, whip the horses. He gives it to Ivan to hold on and prevent, and he like extra leverage for Ivan to prevent Ricky from winning the match, and. Ivan's hands eventually slip. They took a long time on that camera work. You see the cameraman walk around the ring and watch as Ricky is straining to pull to the fourth turnbuckle, trying to pull Ivan, and he's got his foot around the ropes. And Paul Jones he's holding his whipping stick, holding on Ivan's hand, straining, and the cameraman walks around and get this shot, and then Ivan's hand slips. And Ricky gets to the fourth corner and wins the match. Now, this ending reminds me very much of WrestleMania. No, actually, it would be. This is 1988. It would be actually two years from now. So this one, it's probably this situation has been repeated before, but it reminds me of something that would happen 2 years later. WrestleMania 6, Andre and Haku lose the tag team titles to Demolition. And it's Andre and Bobby Heenan's pissed off, and at Andre, he's blaming him for the tag title loss, and Bobby Heenan arguing with Andre about the loss of the match. The same thing goes with Paul Jones is arguing with Ivan Koloff for losing this match. And for some reason, that Jim Ross had said that Paul Jones calling Ivan Koloff the weak link of his stable. And then all of a sudden, then this other guy in a mask. They're calling Russian assassin. He starts. He comes in, starts beating. I think with Ivankov. Ivankov got fed up with Paul Jones's nagging and complaining, and but blaming him, and he shoves Paul Jones to the ground, to the mat. So this is going to be officially Ivankov's babyface turn. Yeah, I think it would be a first time for Ivankov too. It wasn't much. The crowd is not reacting that well. Not to certain things they should be reacting to. They didn't react to Ricky Morton. They're not reacting to Ivankov's babyface turn. They're not reacting that well. Then they had a big guy. They keep saying he doesn't look that big to me at all. In a red mask, called a Russian assassin. He starts beating on Ivankov. All of a sudden, a second guy comes in the same red mask, and they call a second a second guy come in. I guess now it's called. They're gonna make a tag team of Russian assassins with two guys in red masks. They're gonna probably call a tag team of Russian assassins. They start pummeling Ivankov and using the Russian chain, and Paul Jones a 3-on beating Ivankov. What didn't make any sense to me now is Ricky Morton. I think Tommy Young, the referee Tommy Young, is looking at Ricky Morton. He's on the concrete floor. I'm very surprised Ricky Morton didn't come in and help Ivankov. Out of respect. The Rock and Roll Express and the Ivan Kiyakov had a long time. They took the titles from him in 1985 twice from the Russians. So I'm surprised Ricky Morton didn't come and help Ivankov, and he got pummeled. Ivan got pummeled by Paul Jones and his two masked Russian assassin tag team. They beat the hell out of him. But then here's the loudest pop of the night so far. The loudest crowd pop is the crowd starts yelling, "Nikita, Nikita!" Where was Nikita Koloff? He was in that previous tag team match I was complaining about. I was talking about. Nikita Koloff never came out. Now eventually, Ivankov has apparently turned face against Paul Jones. So I assume Ivan and Nikita Koloff are going to team up sometime this year. But Ricky Morton didn't come in and help. Nikita Koloff didn't show up and help Ivankov. So what the heck? So this show is honestly poorly scripted. I hate to use that word. It's same as the F word. Sorry, I apologize. But why didn't Ricky Morton help Ivan? Why didn't Nikita Koloff show up to help Ivan? But Ricky Morton defeats Ivankov in a Russian chain match. So again, another so-so match. Okay, the main event of the night. Sting will faces U.S. champion Barry Windham, now member of the Four Horsemen, with J.J. Dillon. This match went 20-some odd minutes. It was actually good, very good, and typically a main event would be good. And the one thing that was vaguely annoying but true was Jim Ross. Is when Crockett bought out UWF, paid Bill Watts for the UWF. And I say again, it was Rick and Scott Steiner, Jim Ross himself, the announcer, and Sting, and they were the key particulars, the key things that from the UWF that really lasted for so long and really made a lasting impression. That they became stars. The only people from the UWF that really lasted and became stars: Sting, the Steiner brothers, and Jim Ross, the announcer. And one thing Jim Ross kept referring back to is Sting is still a rookie, kind of a rookie or an amateur. He's still early in his career. And I did not look up this. I have to look it up if it's true. Jim Ross kept saying about Sting that this Thanksgiving would be 1988 would be his third year in wrestling. Now I know he started. He was a part of a bodybuilding set of men. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. There was at least 4 to 6 of these guys, and Steve Borden, Sting, and Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior, were the two that Bill Watts. I'm gonna say it was Memphis, or it was Bill Watts. Decided they want to keep these two guys. They were the best looking guys. For muscular, and we'll work with these guys and turn them into wrestlers. And it was they were as Rock and Flash, the Freedom Fighters, and then they became the Blade Runners, and then Sting changed name to it was Blade Runner Sting, and then eventually dropped the Blade Runner name and Sting. Ever since the first Clash of Champions, that 45-minute match with Ric Flair put Sting on the map, made him that he's gonna be a star. And it was kind of annoying that Jim Ross kept saying that he's still in his third year in this Thanksgiving, and it's curious that he started on Thanksgiving night. I have to look that up if that's really true. But this match was really, really good, and at least it far better than all the matches of the night, and it should be at the main event. The one also interesting thing now that Barry Windham, he really he had a good, he took a beating, and he bled. One thing in the match that I found really disturbing is Barry Windham, when he started bleeding early in the match, all of a sudden his bloody head kind of cleaned up and it didn't bleed anymore. That I found strange. Now, there was someone at ringside, and before this match, Ric Flair was in an interview area talking about he's got an upcoming world title match. I'm not sure if they're talking about in a following month or at Starrcade. The match with Starrcade. Ric Flair's gonna have a match with Starrcade with Lex Luger, and I'm not sure if that's the match that former San Francisco 49ers football team, two-time Super Bowl champion John Ayers. I don't know much about football history. A little bit. And Ric Flair's a like a desk area, and he's talking to John Ayers. John Ayers' problem is he is not that great a talker whatsoever. He said whatever match he's gonna have, he's refereeing a match with Ric Flair, he's going to call it straight down the line. Whoever wins. I'm not gonna favor anybody. Now. And you could see right there, and Ric Flair, you could see Ric Flair was inputting himself that John Ayers could not talk at all. He talked a little bit, but not enough. And Ric Flair, you could put his hand in you could watch his hand during the interview spot with John Ayers. Ric Flair was trying to input himself to take over. John Ayers couldn't talk. Now, when John Ayers was at ringside watching the Sting Barry Windham match, and even Barry Windham was mouthing off at him. Barry Windham was mouthing off a lot. The one thing fun about Barry Windham, even when he was the babyface, I love when his matches with Ric Flair, especially in 1987. Oh my God, they were fantastic. Barry Windham's heel turn has to be the most shocking heel turn I have ever seen. There's also the exception with Ron Garvin too. Barry Windham's heel turn really surprised me, but Barry Windham really made it work. When he became a Horseman, he more wanted to show off his father Blackjack Mulligan, legendary wrestler out of Texas, both out of Texas. Barry Windham really sold the black hat image that the heel wrestler. He made it work, and it surprised me. It really did. Sometimes the face turn, the heel turns, sometimes they work, sometimes they didn't. And Barry Windham, he was more of the Texas brawler. So he was copying his father Blackjack Mulligan. He wanted, I guess, the heel turn was J.J. Dillon and Ric Flair's idea to break away out of Dusty's shadow, because Blackjack Mulligan and Dusty trained and probably raised Barry Windham since he was a kid. And even Jim Ross was surprised when Barry Windham applied his claw hold, his black gloved hand, and he copied up his father, Blackjack Mulligan's claw hold. He applied it to Sting's upper pectoral muscle in the chest, and surprised he didn't put it on Sting's head. Okay. But the match went back and forth, and it was very, very good to watch. The one really fun thing to watch about Barry Windham, even when he was a babyface and a heel, is the way he tumbles over top rope. He sells it so good. It's fun to watch, especially this moment. There was one point that Barry Windham, he was J.J. Dillon was also good for many years. When somebody hits James J. Dillon, he would get in between the ropes and he would shake all over those ropes. Barry Windham did the same thing. Now Barry Windham was on a top rope, and he was like a fish out of water, flipping like a fish out of water, and then Sting touches his Barry Windham's side, just tumbled, push him over top rope. I think that the one person who hated it over the top rope, we all as fans hated the over top rope disqualification. I think, and Bill Watts brought it back when he comes into power in 1992. I never understood the over top rope disqualification. Just an easy way of getting. I'm surprised Tommy Young didn't do it, but they also, Jim Ross, he heard there no over the top rope disqualification, but I don't know. But it was a very fun match to watch. Now, John Ayers, who was at ringside watching the match, eventually J.J. Dillon brings in a chair. Sting easily, J.J. Dillon didn't even get to use the chair, and Sting clobbers him. Then Barry from behind clobbers Sting. This was a cushioned, it wasn't even a steel chair. It was a heavily cushioned chair. The part that you saw, the part we sit on as a cushion, this thing was 2 to 3 inches thick. It was really, really thick. It was an obvious cushioned chair. And Barry hits Sting with it. And apparently, at one point, Barry knocked Sting out of the ring. Barry then, it wasn't deliberate, but Barry collided with referee Tommy Young, and it was a ref bump. That's when J.J. Dillon brought the chair in. Then, as Barry clobbered Sting with a cushioned chair, Barry covers Sting, and referee comes in, and Jim Lyons say, "Don't let this happen." John Ayers interjects, stops the referee's count, and immediately referee Tommy Young raises Sting. John Ayers tells the referee that Barry used the chair on Sting. So instantly Tommy Young raises Sting's hand, saying disqualifying Barry Windham. John Ayers gets in the face of Barry Windham. John Ayers gets in the face of J.J. Dillon. John Ayers actually grabs J.J. Dillon. No, I know it was John Ayers got in the face of Barry Windham, and Sting quickly, he drop kicks Barry Windham out. John Ayers grabs J.J. Dillon, and he grabs him. Actually, he grabs him by the neck, and he slams against the turnbuckle. But he was trying to sell himself. He's going to be the tough football player. But he can't talk for crap. He can't talk at all. That's why it doesn't work. Okay, we end Clash of the Champions 3 with every match had an interest. The Sting Barry Windham match was definitely the standout match, and a 20-minute match. And they had to get John Ayers interjected in, inputted in this match. But Sting defeats Barry Windham by disqualification, so Barry Windham remains U.S. champion. So that's my review of Clash of the Champions 3. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like or dislike, and thank you for watching.